comes along who calls out something really good in another person. Like a coach who calls for, how many of you played sports? Okay, so you can remember when you had that coach who called out the best in you. Or maybe you have kids who play now, and you can think how one coach was super effective calling out the best in your kid, and another one just dampened their spirits, right? And so I want to tell you about somebody today who wants to call something out in you to activate something in your life that will change you. Books can sometimes do this in me. You hear about it because I always tell you about it. I mean, they're not always Christian books. The book Grit, written by a psychologist, really caused me to think about upping my game and being persevering, and passion, etc. Sometimes sermons, I listen to a lot of podcasts, songs, they stimulate me to think about living higher than I might normally do. But in a similar way, God calls us out. And he calls out of us. He doesn't just call us out, but he calls out of us those things that would stay dormant if he was not in our life. I love the setting where Jesus called a number of his disciples, where we were just talking about, along the Sea of Galilee, which we'll look at more closely, we'll see pictures. But John chapter 1, starting in verse 43, describes a different time when Jesus called his men out. I've mentioned to you guys the Filament Bible. So this morning when I looked at this passage in Filament and looked at all the notes, tapped the app and looked at all the notes on here, looked at it in the Biblical Archaeological Bible, to the different sites talking about, but starting in verse 43, this is the New Living Translation. We're just going to read a few verses. So again, John chapter 1, verse 43 says this. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found, he's talking about the Galilee region here. He found Philip and said to him, "Come, follow me." Philip was from Bethsaida, Andrew and Peter's hometown. Again, sinking their lineage right in a town right located around the Sea of Galilee. Philip went to look for Nathanael and told him, "We have found the very person Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." "Nazareth!" exclaimed Nathanael. "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Did I say the wrong thing? Oh, I was like, did I read them? I was like, I'm kind of fragile today, so come and see for yourself, Philip replied. As they approached, Jesus said, "Now here is a genuine son of Israel, a man of complete integrity." "How do you know about me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus replied, "I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you." In other words, Jesus saw him and sent Philip. Okay, just a side note there. Then Nathanael exclaimed, "Rabbi," or teacher, "you are the Son of God, the King of Israel." So this setting takes place right at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. And understand that the entire currency of Jesus' ministry then and now is relational. So he would call one out, and that one would turn around and go back and get another. So it would be like Donna saying, "Wow, I found it." Or if you invite someone here, "I found this group and I've met friends and they hear more about my faith growth, etc. Come." And there's an invitation, right? So it's relational. But we get that. It's at the heart of Jesus, which, by the way, is at the very heart of God the Father. Because Jesus said, "You've seen me, you've seen the Father." So our Father's heart is relational, which sometimes is easy to miss, that that's the heart of the Father that Jesus portrays. We find that as our video clip portrayed today, Jesus came from Nazareth. But understand, Nazareth was a very unlikely place for the Messiah to come to. It was poor, it was backwoodsy, you might kind of say, like where I grew up, we would say it's sort of like Modesto, sort of like, or worse, where's Tony? Kind of like Turlock, sorry, I was born in Oakland. You could say, same idea. Oakland's huge, but it's like, can anything good come from Oakland? 7 warriors. And so, here's the thing. I think Nazareth is the one place God would not likely go, and yet God wants you to know He'd go anywhere to get you. I think that's part of the point of Nazareth. It was humble, but it's symbolic that if He would have Jesus come from Nazareth, He would come and go anywhere to find you. And He will. He will continue to search you out. Come and see. I like those words. Jesus said, come and see. And then we saw that in John chapter 4, where the woman at the well, right? She's from Samaria. Jesus talks to her during the day. This is forbidden by law. He's a rabbi. He's a man. He's not even supposed to talk to her. She goes by day because she's not expecting to run into anybody, because basically she was a woman filled with puke. Jesus says, go get your husband. And she says, stands there kind of dumbfounded, and then says, well, you've had 5. He knows about her. And yet, she goes back to her town and says, come and see. She invites them. Come and see the man who told me all about me, right? So there's something in this invitation. Everyone, just one of those. Sorry. And so every one of us, it's like, who doesn't want to be told, come, why don't you come to lunch with us? Would you come? I have to say, if I individually say, do you think you could come to lunch with us? Like, we go on Thursdays. Would you sit next to me? Could you come? People, I remember saying that to Libby one time, early on, the first time we were going to Chow Pasta. Libby, could you come to lunch? And I think the very person who would be like, I don't really want to go to lunch. What if I get seated next to somebody that talks to me and, I don't want food, blah, 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 blah. All these things that we say to ourselves, right? But because I specifically said, Libby, will you come to lunch? And the fact is, don't we all want to be invited? Yeah. We all want to be invited. Somehow we make the assumption others are invited, but not us, right? But we're all invited. And that's one of the things you have to love about Jesus, because Jesus goes after them all. The woman. And again, if somebody has told you that Christianity is sexist, Jesus breaks every mores of the day. Is there anything we should do about that?
No, it'll go on.
Okay.
It's on everybody's phone.
Okay. So come and see. It seems, here's the funny thing. It seems like we think that our story with God began when we started searching for Him. But the truth is, your story with God began when He started searching for you. Long before He awakened in you like there's something missing, He was already looking for you. He was already out there beating the bushes to see where He could find you. He was already sending somebody in your path to invite you. He was already helping you up when you fell yet again with the stupid decision that you made, right? And so why do we think that okay, when I started looking for God, then He was already looking for you. I mean, to understand the heart of God, long before you knew it, long before you believed, God was searching for you. So John's description of Jesus' encounter with Nathanael, and I'm sure that's like an Anglo way of saying it, there's probably a really pretty way of saying it. It was so telling, because Jesus comments about Nathanael. And what does He say about him? There's a man in whom I find nothing essentially but integrity. Okay, a fine Israelite. They all thought they were a fine Israelite. But He highlights Nathanael and says, of whom I find no guile. Okay? And so, here's my question about you. If Jesus saw Heidi, what would He say about her? Better yet, let me ask you this. Would you be afraid to hear what Jesus would have to say about you? The question depends on who you've listened to about what God thinks about you.
Right.
Because if it's a frightening thought, maybe the church, whatever that is, has been some things that they've been noticing about some people, how people who believe in God talk about God or on God's behalf, is how God talks about people when nothing could be further from the truth. So, for instance, Don't confuse God with people
Right.
who know about God. Seek out God yourself. First thing Jesus says about Nathanael, here is an Israelite in whom there's nothing false. So he picks out the very best thing about him. And that's what he sees. Yes? Yes. Don't confuse God with people who know about God. In other words, don't get your interpretation of God and don't get your interpretation of what God thinks about you from someone else. Okay? Because unfortunately, a lot of us have grown up with religion, and what religion has told us, there's been sin, and there's been guilt attached, there's been, all these things that are attached, and unfortunately, we miss the heart of God.
Right.
Is that not true?
That's so true.
And so, I look at this, and write the numbers down first. 3, verse 17. 3, verse 17, and it's Zephaniah. And a lot of you are familiar with it, but what I want to say to you today is that God did not just call you, but He's calling out the good in you.
Right.
So Zephaniah 3:17 says this, the Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. And I truly believe if you were to walk in here, and He would grab Heidi by both cheeks and He would say, I just love you. Right? It's not about if you did this, or even because you did this, or, no, I love you. And it goes on, He will take great delight in you. In His love, He will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. So just as Jesus called Nathanael, and He called out the good in Nathanael, He's calling out the good in you and of you. When was the last time someone called out the good in you? What if we, you and I, began a movement of calling people out for the good they do? So often we as women are pretty critical. And I've had some women say to me, I can't help it, that's how my mother was, and I can't be no different. I beg to differ with you. God can redeem that, God can transform that in you. But what if instead of looking at the one thing that really bugs us about her or him, we said, well, gosh darn it, if she didn't really step up her game today, in this way or that way. What if we looked at the good instead of the thing that, and then I was thinking about, what causes that in us? What causes us to see the other thing? And sometimes I think it's jealousy. Yes, sometimes it's a critical spirit. Sometimes it's comparison. It's all kinds of things. When I discovered in my own life that Jesus was calling out the good in me, I realized He wasn't going to allow me to settle in apathy. He wasn't going to allow me to settle or lay around in mediocrity. When Jesus is calling me, He's calling me then to soar. He doesn't want me just to, barely flap my wings and then flutter down, right? Jesus is first calling you to believe. So there's two calls. Calling you to believe, and then calling you to follow Him, then calling you out to soar. There's the call, and then the calling out. People in your life are not always happy when you soar, however. Have you ever noticed that? Like if you're with a group of people and you're the one that's deciding, I'm going to get up and I'm going to have my time with God and I'm going to whatever, and you mention that to somebody, they may be like, oh yeah, what are you all, spiritual now? What are you all, holy? And you have to just quietly take your own course. Because they may not always understand. And guess what? They don't have to. They don't have to, because God is the one that's calling you up. God's calling you to step up to the great adventure. And yeah, your mocking might start right in your own house. Right? I've had that. Sick of coming downstairs and seeing you read your Bible. I'm like, well, I think it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I can do anything I darn well please. So that was my very loving response. People in your life are not always happy, but that's when you have to decide whose voice you're going to listen to. Right. Whose voices you will listen to. And you also have to become aware, we women have to become aware of whose voices we hear over and over in our own heads, and we've started telling it to ourselves. be careful. I'll tell you something straight out. There have been times I've attributed words to my husband that he never said to me. Because I had my dad's, driving voice in my head. And there were times when I was sure he was saying, well, if you were just neater, then you would be able to find that thing. Or if you were just, whatever, because he's like the man from GLAAD, everything's in order in his life. I am not. Surprise, I am not. And so there are times when I think I've attributed him, maybe even got upset, and he wasn't saying a word to me. So be careful even what you attribute, what voice you attribute to another person who they haven't even said it to you. Because really what you've done is you've believed the lie of someone else and transferred it onto the face of somebody near you. So sift what's said to you. Ask if it's from God, and if not, ask him to reveal to you, where did it come from? If it's a lie, renounce it. Renounce it. Recognize the lie and renounce it. So Jesus said to Nathanael, it went yellow in my next line, so I have no idea what he said to Nathanael. You are an Israelite in whom there is no guile. I can remember that part. Some of us were born into religion, and a religion that does not satisfy. I was with a young woman in Israel, and we had a moment where she realized that the religion that she was raised with had done her wrong. And she didn't know it, but there was a hurting spot in her that was revealed when she was in the land. And so sometimes you have to understand, I got to separate out what I was raised with what I read with my own eyes. You've got to ask God to speak to you. Christianity is not about a religion.
That's right.
It's not about a denomination. It's not about a church building. That's why you have to sift out for yourself. You have to read the words for yourself. The difference is, just as Jesus saw Nathanael, called him and called out the good in him, he calls out you and the you long to be. Your best you. Don't you see, Jesus is the only one that can awaken that in you. Do you have that song ready? Isa is a champion. And again, once again, we don't know. We don't know what happened from whether it was worship band last night that changed the system around or whatever, but it is what it is. But I want you to hear this song. Some of you have heard it. It's called Come to Me. you could never be without him. Calling you to a life you couldn't live on your own. You can expect more, because know that God sees you. God wants to call it impossible out of you. God wants you to live out the extraordinary life he made you to live. So much of who we've become depends on, as I mentioned, the voices to which we listen. What are you saying about yourself? What are others saying, or what do you think others are saying? Or maybe it is what others have told you about yourself, things that you have internalized and believed. See, Jesus sees the significant you, not the shiftless you. Jesus sees the courageous you, not the anxiety-filled or fearful you. The creator of the universe, and understand that Jesus is the creator. He's the one that spoke the worlds into being. He will not let you live in the less than. Just as a side note, too many Christian women live under it, whereas we're called to be overcomers. Do not live under it. Do not live under it. The creator of the universe will not let you live in your brokenness. He's calling you out to wholeness. Just as Jesus called Nathaniel, just as Jesus called out Nathaniel, he's calling you. And it is his heart to call out the best in you. God is fighting for you, girl. Exclamation mark. So here's the question. Will you give your life to him? I mean, some of you have, many of you have, most of you have, maybe. But you take it back. You take back the control, which is just an illusion anyway. Maybe you stop believing the best in yourself, but he has not. He sees who you are meant to become. And it's not who your boss told you that is. So give him what you have. Give him you. Your will. Your desires. Almost done. But just as a side note, do not be held back because of a mate that you're with. I've had women say to me, I'd really like to give myself all to God, but my husband that would never be his thing, and I don't want to be in a different plane than him. I totally get it. But don't you want your entire recesses of your heart to be filled with this love that sees the courageous in you? He'll take care of the rest. It's on his time. It's in his will that he would draw your loved ones to you. So why would you be held back because of what somebody else is going to do? Now, this would take boldness, but I'm going to ask you to go bold today. Could we go bold?
Yes.
If you are the called out one and you want to put your hand in his, would you be courageous enough to stand to your feet? I'll say it again. If you are the called out one and you want to put your hand in his, would you be courageous enough to stand to your feet? Because he's never stopped believing the best in you. If you want to. Are you courageous enough? Put your hand on a woman who's next to you. Just touch your shoulder or sleeve. God, we want to believe what you have to say about us. Nothing less and nothing more. God, we want to boil it all down to the simple thing that you say about us, that we are your beloved. God, you're looking to call out the best in us. Not what other people have said, not what some religion has said, not what some man-made construct has said, not some university has said, not some teacher, not some coach, gosh, some of us go back to junior high, what someone said. But God, you want us to live fully, to our full capacity. So God, come. Speak right now into the quiet, into these women's minds and hearts. Tell them, God, you are their beloved. Tell them you want to follow him the best way you know how. given us new life. We're tired of trying to do it on our own. We want you want best. In Jesus' name.